Tonight, we'll find out whether Eric Good, back for the 22nd week, will trust his wife Elena and raise his winnings to $115,600.
Do. Mortimer, Bill, I don't like the way you slouched in here tonight, Bill. No, you should stand erect and walk with grace. Well, I'd walk with who? Grace. Well, okay, but the prince will have to mind the baby.
Do you trust your wife? Brought to you by L&M. Get full exciting flavor plus the miracle tip. Live modern. Smoke L&M. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, a husband, by knowing whether to trust his wife, can possibly retire for life. Yes, our trust fund question pays $100 a week, every week for an entire year. And the trust fund winner may return and keep winning an additional year's income until he is defeated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here is the star of our show, Edgar Bergen with Effie Clinker. Edgar, our first couple comes from right here in Los Angeles. They are Al and Tula Ross.
Welcome to the show, Tula. Well, I've never heard of that name before. That's interesting.
That's sort of a nickname, Edgar. My mother gave it to me because people couldn't remember my real name.
Well, and of course I have to ask, what is your real name?
Erotokriti Kokoris.
Yeah. What was that again?
Erotokriti Kokoris.
That could be Greek, couldn't it?
Yes, it is, Edgar. Erato means love in Greek, and kokori in Greek, which is kokoris, means rooster.
Rooster.
So literally translated, my name means love that rooster.
Oh, I see. I presume he's the rooster. No. Al, what kind of work do you do?
I'm a wholesale grocery salesman. I'm a salesman with the Kraft Foods Company, Edgar.
Oh, I see, yes. And where did you meet Tula?
Well, we went to the same high school together, and I sort of noticed her around the campus, but I didn't pay too much attention to her until I saw her play ball.
Oh, I see.
Well, most fellas aren't interested in a girl until she does play ball, you know.
Yeah, I know. Play ball? Weren't you on a girls' baseball team?
Yes, I was, yes. I did very well, too. As a matter of fact, I was Miss Rosenbag of 1910.
Then you like girls' baseball?
I think it's kind of silly.
Oh, I
don't know. All those girls trying to get to first base, and what have you got when you get there? Just another girl.
Al, do you mean to say that you fell for Tula because of her baseball ability?
Well, that was just about it. One night, a bunch of us fellows went out to the ball game. A bunch of us fellows on the football team.
I see, eh?
And there was Tula out in center field, and boy, she really caught my eye.
Was it bugged out that far?
No. Well, how did you meet Tula then?
Well, I spotted her out there in center field, Edgar.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the fellows on the football team knew her.
I see.
So I said, what's that center fielder's name? And he says, well, that's Tula Kokoris.
Yes.
But he says, you better watch out because she's really got a dangerous reputation.
Oh, I see. Ho.
Oh, it's awful. How terrible. How awful. How do I get one?
No. Yeah, Effie, I can't understand you making a remark like that. Why, you have such a Sunday school face.
Yeah, but I got Saturday night ideas.
I know you have. Al, did you ask for any details about this dangerous reputation of Tula?
Well, I was kind of interested, naturally, and so it turned out that Tula wasn't the one who had the dangerous reputation.
Good.
It was her father.
Oh, I see. Well, now, what about that, Tula? Was your father really a strict character?
He really was, Edgar. The Greeks had a word for it, and it was no.
I think all my boyfriends are Greeks.
Yeah. Oh, well, go on, Tula. So what happened?
Well, my folks came from the old country, and in the old country, the parents are very strict with their daughters, and they don't let them go on dates without a chaperone.
No, of course not.
But, and in fact, Edgar, they insist on choosing a husband for the girl.
The parents choose a husband for the girl.
Yes, they do.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think I'm off to the old country.
Yeah.
Old Grease, here I come. Make room for another old ruin.
All right. Yes.
Just call me Miss Clinkerpopolis.
Yes, all right. Well, Al, evidently the reputation of Toola's father didn't scare you too much, or didn't scare you off anyway, did it?
Well, it had me a little worried, but after the game, I managed to get an introduction with Tula and arrange for a date over at her house the next night.
Sure.
And, well, I didn't want to take any chances at all with her father's reputation, so I decided to bring along 8 members of the football team along with me as chaperones.
As chaperones, yeah.
I'd like a fellow like that.
Having a fellow you show up with 8 chaperones?
No, having a fellow that needed 8 chaperones.
No, I see. Tula, what happened when the mob arrived?
Oh, my dad was fit to be tied.
Yeah, I bet he was.
And my mother and my dad and myself, we got in a heated conversation in Greek, and I kept saying, don't embarrass me now, don't embarrass me. Al's a good boy. And he says, well, why is he looking at you with those calf eyes?
Yeah.
He says, he has more on his mind than that tea and donuts that you're serving. He says, throw him out. And I says, no, he's really a nice fella, Dad. I says, I know he hasn't any dishonorable intentions.
Well, then I go with your father. Throw him out.
Well, how did the evening work out then?
Well, as the evening won, my dad was getting more angry by the minute. And he kept saying terrible things about Al in Greek. And finally the boys got up to leave, and Al, when Al was the last one to leave, he leaned over to me and he said, you know, I think I have something to tell you.
Yes.
And he whispered in my ear, he says, I understood everything your parents said. He says, I'm Greek also.
Al, your last name is Ross. Are you really Greek?
Yes, I am, Edgar. My dad's name originally was Gregoropoulos.
Yeah.
But
Here we go. Gregoropoulos.
yeah. But he changed it to Ross.
I see. Well, Tula, it doesn't sound as if your courtship was much fun the way it was as it stands now.
Well, yes, it was. We managed, Edgar. I had
I've had so little in my...
Yeah, I know.
I just read about it.
Yeah.
I've worn my eyes out.
I know.
That's about all.
All right. Let her tell you.
Yeah, all right. Tell it, dearie.
Yes.
I had a married sister, Irene, that lived right next door to me, and I used to sneak over there and get dressed when I had dates with Ross to go dancing or any kind of a date. And you know, Edgar, my dad would have killed me if he ever knew I was out there smooching and dancing and everything.
What a nice way to go, though.
All right. Well, then, when did you finally get married?
Well, about 2 years later, Edgar.
2 years later. Well, you certainly have an interesting story. And in just a moment, we'll play Do You Trust Your Wife? But first, some exciting news.
You're afraid you'll fall in love with me.
That wouldn't be hard.
Oh, now careful, careful.
You enjoy making fun of me, don't you?
You're watching Fox Valley TV. You can be on Fox Valley TV by contacting programming at foxvalleytv.com. You can also go to foxvalleyentertainment.com to learn more.
Mr. and Mrs. Ross, you can win up to $1,200 in cash tonight on your way to our trust fund question. Your first correct answer is worth $100. Edgar, here are the Ross's questions.
Thank you. Will you both go to the board, please? Al, we want to find out how much you know about your wife. Al, how does your wife feel about cooking for you? Does she love to cook for you? Does she merely accept the chore philosophically? Or does she hate to cook? Now, you just write love, accept, or hate. And Tula, you write, hate, love, or accept.
He wrote accept and she wrote accept. You now have $100. Your next correct answer will be worth $200.
The subject of your second question is nursery rhymes. Do you trust your wife?
Better trust myself.
I see an easy look. What time was it when the mouse ran down the clock?
When the clock struck 1.
That is right, 1 o'clock. He's a well-read man.
Oh, yes.
You now have $300. Your next correct answer will be worth $300.
The subject of your third question is nicknames in sports. Do you trust your wife?
I'll trust myself, Edgar.
What great golf champion is called Slamming Sammy?
Sammy Sneed.
Sammy Sneed is right.
Edgar, Mr. and Mrs. Ross have won $600. You may now risk all of it, none of it, or part of it on our board question. But if you lose, what you risk will be deducted from what you already have won. And remember, tonight's top winner competes with our winner from last week for our trust fund question of $100 a week, every week, for an entire year.
And remember, the more the question is worth, the harder it is. Now, do you wish to select a category?
I'll take number 3. Edgar.
And do you trust yourself or do you trust your wife?
I'll trust myself.
History. What country enjoys perpetual neutrality?
Switzerland.
Switzerland is right.
And the Rosses have a grand total of $900. And here again is Edgar Bergen with Mortimer Snurd. Edgar, I'd like to have you meet John and Nancy Montgomery. Nancy originally came from Boston, Massachusetts, and now makes her home with John in Tahunga, California.
Well, now, hello, John and Nancy. Now, John, what sort of work do you do?
Well, I'm a student at Harvard Law School, Mr. Bergen. I'm on scholarship, although right now I'm on a leave of absence for a year due to illness. I'm tutoring in the meantime some children who are a little bit behind in their work. They're up in my neighborhood.
Oh, say, maybe you're just the man that we're looking for, eh, Mortimer? Oh, boy, what's the trouble? Well, this may come as a blow to you, but didn't you fail in your history exam? Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. Well, it wasn't my fault, though. I see. How do you explain that? Well, they keep asking me about things that happened before I was born. Yeah. Well, Nancy, you come from Boston. Did you meet John while he was at Harvard?
Yes, I did, Mr. Bergen. I went to a girls' school called Simmons, and we had a custom of acquaintance dances that all freshman girls go to.
Sure.
And you meet the boys from neighboring colleges. Well, the proportion of boys to girls is about 5 or 6 to 1, which is very nice.
Yeah.
And of all the boys, John had the corniest line.
Oh, well.
But after I went out with him a few times, I discovered I liked him a lot. And 2 months later, after the Harvard-Yale game, we began going out pretty steadily together.
And then things ran pretty smoothly from then on, huh?
Until spring. And then I discovered that he was a lepidopterist.
Oh, you mean he was already married? No. John, you're the first lepidopterist we've had on this show. Maybe you better explain what it is.
Well, Mortimer, a lepidopterist is a butterfly fancier. That's
Yeah.
someone who's interested in Lepidoptera.
Yeah.
Now, Lepidoptera is derived from a Greek word, lepido, which means scales.
Oh.
And butterflies are of the class Raphilocera, which is a subdivision of Lepidoptera, you see. And they are characterized by their...
What's the matter?
Well, I don't think that's a nice way to talk about your wife.
That is John, what's the most interesting phase of your hobby?
Well, actually, I've done a lot of collecting, but perhaps the most interesting thing to me is the transformations that all Lepidoptera go through, the changes as they pass from one stage of life to another, the metamorphosis.
The metamorphosis? No, yes. You're not familiar with metamorphosis? Oh, no. Well,
Oh, no, I'm not. No, all right. I know him when I see him. I met a lot of things, but I never metamorphosis.
John, maybe you better explain it to him then, what this is.
Mortimer, metamorphosis comes from a Greek word which means change.
We get everything from the Greeks tonight, don't we? Yeah.
And what it refers to, Mortimer, is that as the butterfly passes through its 4 stages of life, it changes going from stage to stage. Now, for example, Now, for example, after an egg has been fertilized and deposited upon a tree or something of that nature, it rests there for a while, and then all of a sudden, it hatches and becomes a caterpillar. It's changed.
Now you're making sense, Sim. You know, I got a pet caterpillar.
You see?
I kind of know what he's talking about.
Well, of course you do. You have a caterpillar for a pet.
I'm even teaching him how to sit up and beg. Oh, yeah. Of course, he's got a problem. I see. He doesn't know which end to sit up on.
I'm afraid you can't teach a caterpillar tricks.
Well, then how come they drive tractors?
Oh, I don't know. Well, meanwhile, back at the metamorphosis. John, will you continue and let, we left you at the caterpillar stage there. You were going to finish that up then.
Yes. After the caterpillar has eaten a good deal for a great while and shed its skin several times to compensate for its growth, it begins to work very, very hard, spinning a cocoon around itself, just countless bands of thread that are silk spun round and round and round. And after it's worked so very hard spinning this cocoon, it goes into the cocoon, and you know what it becomes.
Pooped.
No, Mortimer. It went into the cocoon as a caterpillar, and when the cocoon opens, a butterfly comes out.
Somebody goofed, huh?
No. Well, it's been fun talking to you. And now it's time to play our quiz game.
Oh, Mr. Bergen.
Yes?
What's this new slogan that you were telling me about? Something about a pack of pickles?
No, Mortimer. It's L&M. Lets you pick the pack that suits you best.
Oh, yeah.
Watch.
Oh, yeah.
No, sirree, George. You'll never get me up in one of those contraptions.
Why don't you live modern? Smoke an L&M.
Get more fun out of life, more flavor out of smoking. Free up, freshen up your taste. Smoke modern L&M. Enjoy full, exciting flavor, plus the pure white miracle tip. L&M draws easier, tastes richer, smokes cleaner. And only when you smoke modern L&M are you free to pick the pack that suits you best. Now get L&M in the new crush-proof box or the handy L&M pack, King and Regular. Whichever you choose, remember, it's the full, exciting flavor that makes L&M America's fastest-growing cigarette.
Smoke an L&M.
Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery, you can win up to $1,200 in cash tonight on your way to our trust fund question. Your first correct answer is worth $100. Edgar, here are the Montgomery's questions.
Thank you. Will you both go to the board, please? John, we want to find out how much you know about your wife. John, if you both had to live in Europe for a year and your wife had a choice, which city would she choose? London, Paris, or Rome? And Nancy, you write which city you'd prefer to live in for a year, Rome, London, or Paris.
He wrote Paris, and she wrote Paris. You now have $100. Your next correct answer will be worth $200.
The subject of your second question is nursery rhymes. Do you trust your wife?
It's been a long time, but I'll trust myself.
How did the 3 blind mice lose their tails?
They lost their tails by having them cut off with a butcher knife.
That is right, yes.
You now have $300. Your next correct answer will be worth $300.
The subject of your third question is nicknames in sports. Do you trust your wife?
I'll trust myself on that.
In football, he wore the number 77, and he was known as the Galloping Ghost. What was his name?
Newt Rockney, I believe.
It was Red Grange.
Edgar, Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery have won $300. You may now risk all of it, none of it or part of it, on our board question.
Now, do you wish to select a category?
We'll choose history.
History, very well. And do you trust yourself or do you trust your wife?
I'll trust myself.
What former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was also once President of the United States? Former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was also once President of the United States.
I'll take a guess on that and say Madison.
It was William Howard Taft. Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah.
Well, Edgar, the Montgomerys won $300, risked $300, and lost $300. Do you have one more question for them?
Very well. For $100, can either one of you tell me what is the chief food of the anteater?
Oh, trust me. Ants.
Ants is right.
And the Montgomerys have a total of $100. And now it's time for our trust fund question. We will place in trust with the world's largest bank, the Bank of America in California, a trust fund which will pay tonight's winning couple $100 a week, every week, for an entire year. Last week, a construction company technician and his wife ran their winning streak to 21 years and $110,400. And now, here they are, back to try for $100 a week for a 22nd year, Eric and Elena Good.
Fancy meeting you folks here. Well, what is the name again now? No, let's see.
Believe me, Mr. Bergen, with all this excitement, sometimes we're not even sure.
Oh, well. Well, you're sure of the right answers. That's one thing, anyway. And by the way, what is this Mr. Bergen? You know, after 22 weeks, you should be calling me Edgar.
Okay. We should be calling him Mister.
Yes.
With all that money.
Yes.
Oh, dear, you can call me anytime.
All right. Yes. Well, Helena, what's happened in the Good dynasty? Anything interesting?
Well, I'm not sure if anyone understands me, but I'm still making speeches.
Oh, you're making... I see. Well, where did you speak this week?
Well, this week I spoke to 100 brownies and Girl Scouts. And afterwards they wanted to know all about you and your little friends.
Oh, like what, for example?
Well, one thing was they wanted to know why Mortimer was so... I mean, if Mortimer was as dumb as he does. And another thing was...
They asked about me.
Well, I hate to mention this, but they did. And they wanted to know why you always acted so man-crazy.
Acted so man... Who's acting?
Oh. Helena, what else did they ask you?
Well, they wanted to know all about you, too.
Oh, I hope you didn't tell them all.
Oh, yes, I did. I told them that you were a very nice and sweet person, and that it was a wonderful thing to get to know you.
Thank you very much.
And I really mean it.
Oh, you're so right. Helena, honey.
Yeah. Effie.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I've always found him the perfect gentleman. Handsome, charming, talented.
Effie, you're just saying that?
No, you are.
Oh, We'd better get to the trust fund question now. And Bob Lamont, who's going to challenge the Goods this time?
Well, to compete with the Goods is tonight's winning couple with $900, Al and Tula Ross. The subject for tonight's trust fund question is world geography. Edgar, here's that question.
Well, thank you.
No.
Well, you folks, you've heard the category, and there's a lot of money at stake. And it's for you to decide whether you trust yourself or you trust your wife. And I hope you make the right choice. Now, in just a few seconds, our couples will match wits in the big trust fund question. And while they make their decision, here's a decision that millions of Americans have already made.
At Elgin Volkswagen, you spend less and get more. Take your pick from a huge selection of all the hard-to-find models. Visit us today on Randall Road and I-90, where you spend less and get more. That's Elgin Volkswagen.
It's the way you want it, ain't it, Ramon?
Is anything ever the way you really want it? Your job, your plans, even being in love. Isn't there always something wrong? Something that spoils it for you?
Very well. Now then, Mr. Good, do you trust yourself or do you trust your wife?
Well, Lena says I trust myself.
And Al Ross, do you trust yourself or do you trust your wife?
I'll trust myself.
Very well. Will you go to the board, please? You will have 20 seconds to answer this question. It's worth $100 a week for a year, and the winner can come back and perhaps make enough to retire for life. This may be the most important answer you will ever have to give. You have 20 seconds, so think clearly and write fast. Get your pen ready. Here is the question. According to such authorities as the American People's Encyclopedia and the National Geographic Society, the Caspian Sea is the largest lake in the world. When I say go, write down as many as you can of the next 10 largest lakes. I'll repeat that. Write down the next 10 largest lakes in the world. Do not abbreviate. Are you ready? Then go.
Here, ladies and gentlemen, are the correct answers. Superior, Victoria, Aral Sea, Huron, Michigan, Tanganyika, Baikal, Great Bear, Great Slave, and Nyassa. The Rosses have 2 correct, and the Goods have 5 correct. The Goods are trust fund winners with $100 a week every week for a 22nd year.
Congratulations again. Let's see, now it's about 115,000, isn't it? And 600.
Yes.
I see. While he's answering questions, you're doing the bookkeeping. Oh, well, that's wonderful. Well, next week you'll be back to try for the 23rd year at $100 a week. Well, congratulations. We'll see you next week.
Now, here are Edgar and Mortimer with tonight's Nerdism.
Mortimer, a dress designer from New York, writes in to ask you a question, Bill. She wants to know, are you in favor of women's clothes today?
Oh, no, definitely not. My legs ain't 30 enough.
Good morning, Daniel.
Hey, Doc.
Surprised to see you still awake.
So what do we got here?
Time of death was around 2:30 a.m. She has 3 gunshot wounds, 1 to the leg, chest, and her heart, unfortunately.
You're what? Nick, I'm tracking down Jessica's killers.
What happened to Jessica, as horrible and as tragic as it is, it doesn't have that trail. It just doesn't. And it truly looks like she was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
So that's it then.
Listen, Mr. Diaz, all of our investigators are using everything within their power to try and find this guy.
As much as you don't want to lose her brother, I don't want to lose my friend. Just be careful, okay? Just use your head.
You think you're one step ahead of me, don't you? But your advantage is simply your demise. You just don't even see it coming. You'll find out soon, though.